Hi, this lesson is an attempt in a short period of time to give an overview of all of human history, because we've been talking about various times in history as pertains to mathematics, and I think it would be kind of useful. I wish I had this sort of lesson when I was in college. Okay, human beings start somewhere in Eastern Africa. They then spread, this is approximately 100 to 200,000 BC. They then spread to West Africa. They go up to the Nile River Valley. They go into the Middle East, and then from there they go up into Europe, to Asia, down to Australia, and across the land bridge down into North and South America. For the longest time, people are hunter-gatherers. You eat what you find, you eat what you kill, you run away from things that you can't kill. It's pretty much the same all over the place. There's times of warm weather, times of bad weather. There is several ice ages. The most recent one ended about 10,000 BC. Geologists who come to New England can see the very scratching marks of glaciers, which are rivers of ice that just tear up rocks in the very shape of the ground. So during that last ice age, it was a little bit better to be closer to the equator. There were some scattered people far north, but it was cold and there were very few of them. When the last ice age left, about 10,000 BC, civilizations start popping up. Agriculture is invented. People are planting seeds. The problem is that if you've got a seed, you tend to plant the same thing over and over. You exhaust the soil. So people will be farming in one place for a little bit. The soil will go bad. They have to go somewhere else. If there's other people there generally are, you have to fight them. You have to kill them. People are very, very territorial. There's a few places in the world where the soil is so good, generally near very fertile rivers, where civilizations can establish and they don't exhaust the soil. We have ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt, right here, you can even see how beautiful this green, they call it the Fertile Crescent, still is very fertile. About 3000 BC, people start living there. Ancient China, as far back as perhaps even 7000 BC, the Yellow River, which winds through the center of China there. Mesopotamia, it's not quite as good anymore, but you can kind of see that maybe it was green here once ago. Between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, there were a great number of civilizations in there. Sumer, of the Sumerian people, the Assyrian people, the Babylonian people, the people of Ur, and, well, they fight each other a lot. That was approximately 3500 BC. The Yellow River, the Yellow River between what is now India and Pakistan, another river civilization started up there. I'm pretty sure there must have been a civilization that rose up around the Niger River, cutting up into the middle of Africa. Here, this little lump in southern Mexico is where the Mayans started about 2000 BC. Now, the thing is, these civilizations where the soil is good tended to stay put. But approximately, 3000 BC in the island of Crete, which I believe is right here, the island of Crete, started the Minoan civilization, as in the Minotaur. And again, that was about 3000 BC. But then ancient Greece kind of starts up maybe 750 BC. 750 BC, they develop an alphabet. They actually stole the actual letters, the symbols that they use from the Phoenicians over here on the eastern part of the Mediterranean. By 624, they've got mathematics, Thales, and then 569 Pythagoras, 450 BC Euclid, 276 Eratosthenes. The cool thing about ancient Greece is even though the soil wasn't quite so great, they got around. They got in their boats, they traveled, they interacted with the Egyptians and learned a lot about the Egyptian civilization. They set up little cities all around the coast. And at one point, about 300 BC, Alexander the Great, who was actually from darn it, he wasn't Greek. He was, what was it?
Macedonian.
Macedonia. He was from Macedonia. He came all the way down. He conquered Greece. He conquered Egypt. And he got even as far as India. And after that point, you'll start seeing Buddhist sculptures in India where the Buddha has curly hair, just like the Greek sculpture. You'll find Greek architectures throughout. So the Greek civilization kind of got spread a bit. Around this time, while Egypt is doing, while Greece is doing all this great mathematics and theater and arts and literature, Rome is rising up here in Italy. And not as sophisticated intellectually, but they were tough people, and they're slowly conquering all of Italy. They start off slow at first, about 700 BC. By 100 BC, they've conquered Greece. By the time Jesus is born, where is he born? Right around here in Israel, modern-day Israel. The Romans have conquered pretty much everything. All around the Mediterranean is all Egyptian. They had gotten down to about what is modern-day Iraq. They couldn't get much further there. They went all the way up. They conquered Julius Caesar conquers what he calls Gaul, which is sort of modern-day France. They even get all the way up to about halfway through England. They were never really able to deal with the Scottish people, so they just tried building a wall right across the country to keep them out. It had limited success. But over the next bunch of years, let's say by about up to about 400 AD, the Roman Empire starts to fall. The German barbarians are attacking them from the north. The Vikings are attacking down. They attack in England. They attack the coast. You have all sorts of people. They never quite conquer the Middle East, not to submission for sure. And by, let's say, 400 AD, Rome is first sacked by the Gauls, Visigoths, a German tribe. About this time in Mecca, Muhammad is born by 600 AD. By some point, where is it? Oh, wait, let's see. Here's the extent of the Roman civilization, and this is approximately 0 AD. By about 900 AD, the Arab world, they've conquered up into southern Spain. They've got the entire north of Africa, the entire Arabian Peninsula, what is modern-day Persia, all the way into the parts of India. And in fact, the Arab Empire actually went all the way across to the South Pacific Islands. I believe Indonesia is, in fact, the most populous Muslim nation in the world right now. Meanwhile, what was going on? Europe, so they drove the Romans out, but when the Romans were there, they had laws, they had roads, they're trying to civilize the places that they conquered, in their view. When they were kicked out, what was left was just little city-states, people attacking each other. This is why we call it the Dark Ages. We don't really know what was going on. They weren't writing things down. They were largely illiterate. Eventually, they got their act together. Oh, but the Arab world, the cool thing about the Arab world is they got their hands on the books of ancient Greece. They got their hands on the books of ancient Rome, and they held on to Western civilization as we know it for a long time. While the Europeans were just barbarians beating each other over the head, the Arabs were taking Greek mathematics and adding algebra to it, taking Greek astronomy, and they had a connection to India. And in fact, they took over the Arabic numeral system, numbering system. We call it the Arabic numerals. In fact, it's the Hindu Arabic. The Hindus came up with it first. Now, what about China? China was way more sophisticated than us for the longest time. The problem was they weren't sharing it. A lot of the wisdom was kept in the emperor's palace. So the Pythagorean theorem. They knew the Pythagorean theorem thousands of years before Pythagoras. But the Europeans had to find it out on their own, so they named it after the one, Pythagoras, who came up with it. Anyway, what happened next? Eventually, the Europeans start getting their act together, and they try to attack the Arab world, and they have the Crusades, about 1000 to 1200 AD. In the process, they get their hands on some of these books, which were in translation, but they were able to slowly recover the knowledge, the mathematics, the literature of ancient Greece and ancient Rome by stealing those books that the Arabs had translated and held on to. And so by the 1300s and 1600s, there's sort of this renaissance, this rebirth of understanding. That's the time when we have Columbus comes over, the discovery of the New World occurs at this time. There were huge civilizations at this time. When Cortez came through, he met vast peoples, huge cities. When he went back a second time, he said, "Where is everybody?" Well, everybody had gotten terribly sick from the terrible diseases that he brought from Europe over to the New World. And so when he went back on later excursions, he finds vast empty cities of terribly sick people. And so we never really got to, after that, not too many people got to see the great civilizations of North and South America. And then after the Renaissance comes the Enlightenment, about the 1600s and 1700s. That's when science really kicks into gear. This is sort of the first point at which mathematics were advanced beyond the level of what the Muslims had done, say 900 AD. And then we have the Industrial Revolution between the 1700s and the 1800s, and that takes us pretty much up to the modern day.